tonight again on YouTube. Welcome, welcome. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Robyn. I'm a sleep health coach and clinical pharmacist. I am here to help you really, especially during these times. And we're going to talk about, really talking about tonight trauma and the body, and 10 ways that trauma really affects our body and what we can do about it. So I'm excited to start talking about that. Let me go ahead. I got a feedback. Okay, let me fix that. Okay. And let's do one more. Put this in our Instagram. And then we are good to go. Okay. Okay, I think we're good to go now. Okay. Hopefully, if you're new here, you just fast forward it through all of that. Don't have to watch all of that. So one of the reasons I really wanted to get on tonight, as many of you all know, tonight is today is September 11th, a day that definitely changed, I want to say, all of our lives, definitely here in the US. Even if you were living elsewhere abroad, it was definitely a life-changing experience that will never be forgotten in terms of September 11th. I know exactly where I was on September 11th. I probably can't tell you where I had breakfast this morning, but I could tell you where I was on September 11th. I can tell you what I was doing that day, the exact moment that I heard all of that information, and what happened in New York. And it was very, to say the least, it was very traumatizing. And I wanted to talk about tonight what that trauma does to our body. I see some people popping on. Great, great. Hi, Adonis. Good to see you. Thank you for popping on tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, good, good. See, I see a lot of people popping on. This week has been a traumatic week for a lot of us. The week started out Sunday. We had major eclipse season. Eclipse season does bring chaos. So we had a major lunar eclipse on Sunday. And some people were calling, I believe that was the red moon, the red blood moon. And I had no idea what was going to be coming up during our week for that. Yesterday, we heard about, a shooting on a college campus again, but a different, definitely politically charged. All of these things that we've gone through this week are traumatic, have put us in a state of trauma. I know myself, I had to really step up my self-care for myself this week, because I definitely, all of the things, I woke up one day and there was another city, a bombing in the Middle East city. So that war is continuing just when I think things are starting to quiet down, that gets riled up again. So I just wanted to really touch base with everyone this week. I was inspired by a video, and I'll put it in the description. It was a video done by a lady I follow here on YouTube, Stephanie Perry. And she went into some of in fact, she did this video earlier in the week, before all these further traumas have even happened. And she talked about in her specific video, just like, it wasn't a life or death trauma, but definitely a trauma where, there was various influencers, of influencer in particular, I'll put it down below, who was really putting a damper on people who are really enjoying the creative aspect of looking to, really create a business, creating products, creating services, really extending themselves, to go over and beyond, to, really contribute to society and, be in an industry. And having fun with it as well. So, she went into a really good information in terms of how she agreed and disagreed. We both had a talk, I think, on one of her other channels that was probably just not the right timing for that particular talk. Right now, we are experiencing, that was probably my first trauma for the week, and it was multiple ones. Hearing about, the bombing in Qatar, hearing about another killing on a U.S. campus that was politically charged. Hearing about all of these things definitely, and that's why I really wanted to come tonight, really talk about the 10 ways that trauma can affect your mind, your body, and most importantly, your sleep during this time. So we'll just go ahead and jump into that. One way is the increased risk of depression and anxiety. I'll say that again. Going through trauma like the trauma we have experienced this week, you can see an increased risk of depression, anxiety, and mental issues in general. So definitely people are feeling a lower mood right now, which is normal. I don't encourage, that toxic positivity where people are just, oh, I'm just going to push through and be happy. The events that have happened this week are things that have definitely caused distress to many of us. And not just here, but also definitely throughout the planet. Um, I'm trying to see if there's any questions. Hi, yes. Someone asked me, are you a doctor? I am a clinical pharmacist and a sleep health specialist. Also dealing with stress, exhaustion, and helping people to heal from burnout as well. So definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for hopping on. Be sure to subscribe if you're new here. If you are interested in learning how to definitely decrease as much as possible stress, burnout, exhaustion, so that you can wake up every day ready to take on your world. Be sure to subscribe right here to SleepWell RX. We'll go ahead and keep going for tonight. So definitely people feeling that persistent lower mood, excessive worry about, what future events could be occurring and going on. Sleep difficulties, trouble getting to sleep, staying asleep, having horrible nightmares, mind just racing because of all of the things that are going on. Also, some people having just really feelings of where they're losing interest in some of the activities that they would find enjoyable during the week. So I would say to these things, definitely take your time, express yourself. This is something that is, really powerful that we forget. After humans get, their basics of their food, their shelter, their water, our oxygen, our air, we need and crave, and it's a definitely necessity after those basics are handled, self-expression. So being able to have someone that you can talk to, whether you have a therapist you work with, a good friend, a close parent, a close sibling, an older child. And that brings me to definitely check on the children in your family this week. Sometimes they're not able to express themselves. A lot of them weren't alive during 9/11, but they do have questions about it. So being able to let them express themselves and talk about that. All of the other things that are going on this week, I follow a couple of astrophysicists and geophysicists who said that we were really getting hit hard with geomagnetic solar storms this week. So this has been definitely a rough, difficult week to navigate, and it definitely caused us trauma. So the second way I wanted to talk about, how trauma affects the body is if you are having, or if you have any previous history. Most of us have something in our lives where we can have PTSD. So post-traumatic stress disorder, where, there's intrusive memories coming back more than ever, flashbacks of any incidences. Also, emotional numbing and feeling that disconnect. These can be definitely a traumatic effect on our body and our mind. The third way is, people have ideations of causing themselves self-harm. So frequent thoughts about, self-harming themselves, feelings of where they're just feeling trapped with no solutions available, and emotional of pain that can definitely become unbearable. Definitely make sure you're staying in community and talking with people so that you don't, these things don't really linger and carry on. Some of these things are okay, in terms of feeling some of these emotions right now. I actually think it's normal and we don't have to rush to get over them. Give yourself a certain time where you accept that this was what's going on. A lot of things right now can be seen as depressing. In our lives right now, but that we need to give ourselves time to process, do that self-expression, get it off our chest so that we don't incur, occasional illnesses or problems. We definitely want to look at that. One of the next ways is chronic stress. So, before, this week, a lot of us were dealing with already different things on our plates. We have back to school going on. The holidays are just around the corner where people are starting to think about that. Just chronic stress that's going on the planet in general, in our country in general, even some in our communities. This can make those stress issues even worse when we have these, really tragic acute events that have occurred this week. Please, again, be gentle with yourself. Have someone that you can talk to and get these off of your chest. Unfortunately, sometimes events like this can actually have increased, where we see people have increased cardiovascular issues. If they're already prone to various cardiovascular issues, this can be very frightening. So, where blood pressures are spiking right now, where people are actually, feeling their heart racing as they're dealing with all the things that are going on right now. There is increased risk to have, cardiovascular events. So make sure you're not skipping it. If you've been prescribed certain medications to, to tamper and to definitely manage blood pressure, make sure you're taking them. Taking some really extra steps right now. We know high sodium diets can really send us over the edge for cardiovascular issues, hypertension. So definitely watching our salt intake is really important right now, increasing our hydration. When we get under higher stress, as we've seen with some of the traumas that have gone on this week, these higher stress situations definitely increase our cortisol level, which can actually be dehydrating for our body. So making sure we're staying well hydrating, getting, eating your fruits, and really specifically the fruits, the high hydrating fruits like your watermelon, some of your different melons, even apples. It's apple picking season. And definitely getting in good high quality water. And I have some water down here, but my mouth gets dry too. So we definitely want to stay on top of that. If you're feeling anything, poor engagement in, preventive care can definitely be a downfall. So making sure that you're staying on top of any appointments that you have, reaching out if you think you need something sooner than later. Hi, I see some other people coming onto the live. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, SleepWell RX. We are here to help you get rid of burnout, exhaustion, so that you can wake up every day feeling ready to take on your world. So we're going into some of the traumas again that can, 10 ways that traumas can affect your mind and your body in your sleep. So number 6, we're looking at metabolic problems. So when you think of metabolic problems, you can actually have a metabolic problem if you're dealing with things like unwanted weight, if you're dealing with diabetes. When you get these cortisol spikes, which happens during stressful life we're having right now, fat becomes more stored and you actually start craving more sugars as well. So this is another way. So these are really during these times, it's really time to be very gentle with ourselves, really step up our self-care. And we're going to get into, more and more things we should be doing to make sure that our sleep is going well as too. And we'll do a recap of these. Number seven, we're on number seven now, and I'll recap and go over the numbers a little bit better, is looking at our immune system. When we're under this type of stress and our minds are racing with all of the things we're dealing with the traumas, we can have actually increased inflammation in our body. We can have impaired, recovery. We've been working out a lot and we need some muscle recovery. If we need a wound recovery, anything like that, all of these things can be impaired, actually putting us more risk because our immune systems are not functioning at our maximum potential, putting us more risk of chronic illnesses and definitely more acute things like cough and cold issues that we may be having, especially during this time of the year. So this is something definitely be careful of. Fatigue is linked to having high inflammation. So if you're feeling, you have a lot of inflammation going on, that fatigue can be associated with fatigue. So that you just don't feel that energetic during the day. Some of the other things are definitely, it can actually be either a high grade inflammation, which will actually, people will start feeling muscle pains during this time where they're having issues. I'm gonna drink a little water. Having issues with actually, dealing with increased pain where there's really not a reason why the pain is increasing, but that is an effect of the trauma definitely can have on the body. So that would be like persistent muscle and joint pain. This would be number 8. So we talked about inflammation, number 7, leading to number 8, which would be increased muscle pain, increased joint pain. You have a baseline issues with arthritis that can increase during that time. There's some people who hold a lot of stress in their GI tracts. So when times get really stressful, they have a lot of, gastrointestinal distress going on. There can actually be tension in various areas, such as, tension in the shoulder area, the neck area. So take this time, if you're feeling that, to really massage those areas to help release some of that. Taking a magnesium bath is also a great idea. A lot of the things and tips we're giving right now will actually help you really get a good night's sleep, in addition to relieving some of the pains and the aches that are seen from some of the trauma in your body. The next issue, in a way, this is number 9, and we'll do a real quick recap. We're about 20 minutes in, so we'll do a recap before we go into how really some of the traumas can affect our sleep. Number 9 is our brain and our cognitive abilities. So a lot of people don't know this, but we actually, when it comes to our memories and the things that we are learning throughout the day, those actually get gelled and solidified during our sleep phases at nighttime. Additionally, if we're having emotional ups and downs, these also become more regulated while we're sleeping. So we've definitely had a lot of emotional ups and downs during this week. And I think we have another eclipse coming up, a solar eclipse coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend. So we're in really this window of where people are going to be experiencing definitely, chaos. So definitely take your time, be gentle with yourself, be gentle with those around you, to really, be calmer, take some deep breaths. Breath work is a really great way. It's been shown clinically to reduce high cortisol levels and to help eliminate stress as well. So definitely taking your time for that. Your problem solving abilities are happening during your sleep. If you're having, difficulties with, really concentrating well, all of those happen during your sleep time. Your focus and your concentration are gelled and solidified during sleep time. So this also can be a major difficult issue if you're having problems with that. Again, you're gentle with yourself, you're delicate with yourself. You're going to take this time to even step up your self-care and be more strict about following some of the sleep hygiene rules. And we'll review some of those before we go. And some of the, number 10, ways that really, so we got to number 10 already, that trauma can affect your body and your sleep. Attachment issues can have really affected if with our relationships, whether it's with a partner or with children, lifelong emotional behaviors. A lot of people can, really trigger and point back to, a specific event that really triggered them into having lifelong emotional and behavioral struggles and issues. Again, getting professional help is so, so important during these times. They find that even, staying in a state of movement, getting sunshine, fresh air can help us through these difficult times so that we aren't, a lot of us get stuck in our brain. That's just what happens. We get caught up in our brains. We're stuck in that, this brain cycle where we're not releasing and letting go a lot of the things that are going on. So I'll do a quick recap and then we'll go into really specifically how these things affect our sleep. So we're talking about the 10 ways trauma affects your body, mind, and sleep. Like I said, I thought September 11th was a good day to really do a deep dive into this. That was, even though I was far, far from New York, that was a traumatic experience in my life. And not just my life, my friends' life, my family's life, my associates' life, co-workers. That was a very traumatic day. And it wasn't just a day. It lingered on for years for many of us till, this day. I remember exactly what I was doing that day. I remember when I saw that on television, I was in shock. I did become a state of trauma. My heart goes out to any of you all watching today who had family members, friends, who they lost in that trauma. That was, I would definitely say that was very, very devastating, beyond devastating. That's something, they have the slogan, never forget. I don't think we'll ever forget. Now, some of the younger generations don't know as much about it. Sometimes I think that's for the best, to let them enjoy their childhood, their adolescence. But once again, if they do come to you, be available or have somebody designated available to speak with them about that. Again, when I open this up, I talk about, some kind of woo-woo things. I do like watching astrology. I watch a lot of astrology here on YouTube. And I do remember, some of the astrologers warning we were in for a chaotic time during this eclipse season. And that eclipse season started this past Sunday. It actually ended, we had, I believe, a lunar eclipse, that blood moon eclipse this Sunday. And we have a partial solar eclipse coming, not this weekend, but the following weekend. So we are in this chaotic energy. I also follow a bunch of astrophysicists here. I have crazy, crazy, I guess, hobbies here, but I follow some astrophysicists here, some geophysicists as well, right here on YouTube, who have noticing that our sun is acting very peculiar this week. It's like, I don't know, it's like it knows something is going on our planet. We're getting a lot of geomagnetic storms and that they can't explain. Usually they'll see these peculiar sunspots on the sun and wonder. These storms, again, to be gentle with yourself, can actually affect our sleep. So definitely, definitely, don't be so quick to diagnose yourself with a condition or problem, especially I would say this week and next week, because we are in chaotic energy, okay? So I'll go ahead and review some of the 10 ways of trauma effects, and then we'll go ahead and keep going. Number one, we talked about it. You can have an increased risk of depression, definitely anxiety and mental issues. If you're prone to these issues, if you need to take some time off, take some walks, if you need to check in with a professional for therapy, don't hesitate. Definitely don't hesitate to do that. You can definitely be feeling more low mood, persistent issues of sadness, sleep difficulties. I've had a few people this week tell me they're having nightmares, especially, I woke up one day and we're back like in a war again. Someone bombed a major city, like a capital in Qatar. That was traumatizing for me because I was like, I thought we were just about done with this. So I had to take a deep breath and take my own advice and do some breath work to work through that. There was a major, incident at a college campus that was politically charged that, was very, to me, traumatic to hear that and listen to that. I'll put her video link down here. Stephanie Perry, one of the women I follow here on YouTube, she did her video way earlier in the week before a lot of the outrageousness happened. And she was just talking slightly, and you may think, oh, that was just kind of lightweight, but it was a little traumatizing for me to hear really one of my idols, one of my entrepreneur idols who I look up to. It felt like kind of be a bit of a dream killer. That was a bit devastating, but she goes into way more detail. We won't go into all of that here. She goes into a lot more detail. I'll put the link to her video in the description once I'm done here, so you'll be able to see that. Also, so we covered number one, definitely increased depression, anxiety. Number two, if have any previous PTSD, most of us have something that has traumatized us. We have a death of a loved one, an accident that's happened. There are a lot of people right now who are dealing with, layoffs, unemployment, really uncertainty about their future. That can actually exacerbate and actually promote some PTSD as well. Number three, people are definitely, if you're having trauma or seeing traumatic events going on, may want to say, well, what's the use of this? And may want to inflict self-harm. So definitely being careful about that. Sharing your experience. We all need self-expression. And this is something I just saw someone, and if I could find the link to the video, I'll put that in the description too. After we have our housing taken care of, our food taken care of, our air, water, our basics, we have a necessity to get things off of our chest, to express ourselves. If we don't do that, it will sit there and fester and make us sick. So definitely make sure you're in community, you're working with therapists, and there's some really affordable therapy available right now. Don't just keep all of this stuff just bottled up in. Let's see here. I'm just going to put that in the chat. Okay, I think I already have the number. Okay, I see I have the number already now in there, so we'll go ahead and keep going. Number four, so the first one we talked about risk of depression. Number two, having PTSD. Number three, self-harm. Number four we're looking at on my notes is definitely chronic stress increase and altering, how you're dealing with stress. Dysregulated cortisol levels, where cortisol is spiking when it shouldn't, spiking especially in the night because we're on edge and our minds are just racing with everything. Feeling that frequent emotional overwhelm and anxiety, and definitely having difficulty calming ourselves down. So again, I don't want to encourage toxic positivity. We've been through a lot this week as a nation collective. I think even as a human collective, seeing that, the war is still going on, all of these things that I thought things were getting better. It seems sometimes that they aren't. And I don't have a lot of control over that. All I have control over is how best that I am handling. And that's same for you, how you are choosing to provide yourself with the best self-care during this time. Maybe you need to slow down on some activities, cancel some things, and really, reach out if you need to for community, taking this time to really self-care, because traumatic events like we've had this week can carry us into years if we don't really set a precedence right now and say, I prioritize me right now during this time. Condolences to, all of the losses we've had this week. And some of the losses, I put her video down there, or just been, someone who I looked up to seemed like a dream killer this week. Definitely, 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 take a look at that video and give me your opinion down in the comments. Number 5 is increased risk of cardiovascular issues. And this is, particularly frightening because we are having, the trauma that's going on that can actually raise our blood pressure, raise our heart rate if we're already at risk for having cardiovascular issues, because there's some other baseline things going on. These can make it worse. There's actually been some studies. I talked about how I follow astrophysicists. Those geomagnetic storms that we're experiencing this week that seem to come out of nowhere, those can actually increase cardiovascular issues as well. Again, we're doing the best we can with what we have, so we stay well hydrated during this time. If we need to go outside and do some grounding, we ground. We do our breath work. We take our magnesium baths and our magnesium soaks, and we got some magnesium cream, we're rubbing that on. We're just taking that extra mile, lowering our sodium content so that we can really feel energized, vibrant during this time. Again, I always give myself time to feel the emotions and not rush through them. I don't, again, want to encourage toxic positivity. These times feel hard and difficult, and it's okay to feel that. I like to give myself a time frame because I can't wallow in it. I tell my clients, you can't wallow and stay in certain positions a long time. Give yourself a frame, and then we start slowly really building ourselves up and getting back to as normal as possible. Number 6 is having metabolic issues. So if we're experiencing some unwanted weight gain, even unwanted weight loss, those can be really, really attributed during times of trauma, where you'll see increased, that cortisol-related fat storage, because cortisol encourages us. Cortisol spikes and increases when it's a stressful time, and our body's like in a fight or flight, similar to adrenaline. And the body's holding on to this fat because it thinks, hey, we might not make it here and we're going to need these fat reserves at some point. So definitely, 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 that's another issue that you can be seeing, one of the ways that trauma can affect the body. So that was number 6. We have 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 7 is immune dysregulation. We want to keep our immune system top functioning at the best function as possible, especially if we're in a cough and cold season right now. We don't want these events to really put us what they call under the weather. These events also increase inflammation within our bodies. And that was number 8. So if you're prone to having chronic pain, those somatic symptoms where you're feeling aches, I know personally I can be prone to, like, really issues in my shoulders and my neck. So I have to make sure I'm doing good shoulder, neck rolls, and I'm massaging them and making sure that I'm, applying magnesium products to help relax naturally those particular muscles. You can also experience GI upset during this time, where you're having a lot of issues where, you're feeling, bloating, cramping, even increase in like diarrhea or some issues like that. Definitely can be seen. So number 9 would be our cognitive mental abilities and our memory. And our memories and our cognition, our ability to focus and concentrate, are really gelled down and solidified during our various phases of sleep, especially that REM sleep time. So we want to always be keeping that in mind. It's hard to sleep sometimes during this time, and that's okay. A couple of nights here and there are okay. It's when it becomes, multiple night after night after night, where you definitely want to be careful about. And finally, we talked about, long-term effects. One of the terms I love is epigenetics. You know, I love it, but it has good and bad effects. So in terms of epigenetics, it's really this concept that our genes are not 100% decided. They can be actually influenced and actually have some structural changes um, in terms of the blueprints for our life based on, the types of food we eat, the types of fluids we drink, the type of environment we're in, and the types of stress that we are exposed to, and that we're not able to deal with. Again, we can't really affect a whole lot the type of stress we're exposed to. Some of the things I'm telling my clients, especially right now, turn off that nightly news. You don't need to have that on right before you're going to bed. That is definitely going to increase that panic and anxiety. Get your daily bullets, and if there's something breaking during the day, set a time frame, look at it, and you're going to have to get off of that. We can't keep constantly feeding ourselves, tragedy, trauma. Our natural lives have a certain amount of that without watching nonstop. Be very, very careful and gentle with yourself about, doom scrolling. Even our social media. There was a time when we could really cultivate a social media profile for ourselves where we can only follow uplifting people and beautiful photography and some close friends or family. Now we're getting shown and bombarded with things we never asked for. I know one of the recent algorithms for one of the major social media outlets, we see people that we don't even follow, and they're giving us bad news. And so we're going to have to just be very, very cautious and careful on how we are dealing with that. Maybe we need to have a digital detox from time to time. That's okay to do that during this time, especially during this time. So those are the top 10 ways that trauma affects your mind and body. We went over those first. I really wanted to go into some of the major ways that trauma really affects our sleep right now. So one of the major ways I'm hearing, nightmares. If someone has actually dealt with some of any of the situations, from this week in the past, similar, it's really, re-experiencing past traumas and re-experiencing these nightmares and these flashbacks. Again, definitely seek professional help if you're having some of these issues. Don't let this rob you of getting rest, sleep, and the energy that you need to definitely do the things that you need to do for your day. The second way is really when we're having this hyper arousal, hyper alert state of mind. We're watching the news to see they caught this person who did this thing. We're just on right now. In fact, YouTube is showing a lot of people are on right now. And people are just, really kind of glued to news. Again, definitely so that you aren't in that hyper arousal state. When you get in that state, you're going to spike adrenaline, spike cortisol, and it's going to be difficult for you to rest. Definitely, you're going to feel more muscle tension, that elevated heart rate that's going. The traumas that we've had this week, definitely take this time to calm yourself down. Some of the major ways we have meditation, and so many meditations on here, deep breathing, doing those exercises. Your mag is your friend. Definitely looking for that, staying hydrated, getting outside, getting some fresh air. All of these things can really to get better sleep. And we'll do a brief recap at the end here of some of our sleep hygiene things that we should go over. Let me see here. Where am I at? Okay, we'll go ahead and keep going. If you have any questions, definitely put those questions down in the chat. I don't think I see any questions right now. So definitely, trouble falling asleep, just the major issue, that people have with insomnia in general. Trouble falling asleep and trouble staying asleep can definitely occur right now. There are people who are, the next thing is like sleep avoidance and bedtime anxiety, where it seems like once it's time to go to sleep, their minds are just racing, 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 and racing some more. Avoiding sleep due to, maybe having issues with nightmares. And we talked about flashbacks. Some people actually associate bedtime with loss of control because we do lose, our consciousness that we had during the day. We do lose a portion of that as we go to sleep. Again, doing your deep breathing exercises, calming yourself down. If you need to do some journaling, I have clients who swear by during their journaling, just really getting that stuff off of their brain, doing a brain dump onto a piece of paper, and limiting the amount of media that you're exposing to yourself right now. You can really take this time, like we said, to choose carefully and wisely what you're feeding yourself. Not necessarily in food too, but what you're feeding yourself in terms of consuming media wise. The media, a lot of it is really designed to keep us in a hyper state of frantic panic and over arousal. That is not conducive for our good health and definitely not conducive to good sleep. The next way is definitely fragmented. So you're able to actually get to sleep, but you're having fragmented sleep cycles. So we'll go over, once again, like I said, we'll do a recap of some of the hygiene things we need to be looking at. If you're using various substances, some people during these times can feel that they have comfort substances that they're using. Definitely be careful of alcohol during this time. Alcohol definitely fragments our sleep architecture so that we aren't getting really, really good sleep. It does provide some type of sedative effect, and people will reach for other substances as well. Please be careful with that. Try and say, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to use these particular substances so that I can focus on my health and well-being, and really, really get good sleep so that you don't have that architecture that's fragmented. It's highly dehydrating having alcohol before bed when sleep is already a naturally slightly hydrating process, which is why we need a little bit of water when we first wake up. And definitely, you can see it increase if you're having issues with the trauma of comorbid disorders. So if you already have issues, like we say, with depression, anxiety, these particular events that we've experienced this week can actually make those worse. If you actually deal already with chronic pain, the events again this week can make that pain worse. So definitely, definitely take this time to nurture yourself, to care for yourself. We're going to go over some quick sleep hygiene things. Taking a hot shower or a warm bath, or if you don't have either one of those, a nice foot soak before bed is a good idea. Those warmer temperatures, actually, after you get out of them, your body actually cools down, and you need that cool down to begin sleep. So if you're tossing and turning all night, you may find that you're really not getting that, that good sleep, because you are not lowering that temperature. Make sure you're lowering the temperature. We're having that fluctuations that we get in fall. Like we were like in the 40s last week. We're supposed to be like 90 tomorrow or something like that. So adjusting the temperature accordingly in your bedroom. Again, we're going over the sleep hygiene portion from 65, to about anywhere, and some people can go even lower to about 60 degrees, to about 72, 73 degrees or so. It'll differ from person to person, but these are things I want you to be able to do tonight. Grab some magnesium salts from your local store. It's usually just mag in there. It's mag sulfate, I believe. And you can just see those when you see those Epsom salt bags. Grab some of those and put those in your salt bath, your foot soak. I've even been experimenting with hand soaks, and they feel amazing. Up to like your elbow in the sink. Those are good ways to relax. Taking the time, I know you're on YouTube now watching this, taking the time to watch somebody that's going to make you laugh, cheer you up. It's important that we plan happiness in our days. And it's going to be different things for different people. I might like a totally different comedian than you like, a totally different sitcom, but find something that's going to definitely change your mood, cheer you up, and raise your vibration. You definitely want to do that brain dump before you go to bed. There's different ways you can do that. If you do a meditation, if you have particular mantras you like to recite, various mudras, also those different particular hand signs. When we lock in, we can lock into various mudras that help us to sleep as well. Um, Doing, gentle stretching so that we're not holding a lot of tension in our necks, our shoulders, our back. People have a lot of back pain. Again, the trauma this week can actually increase whatever baseline pain that we were can have, and it can make it even worse. So definitely taking care of yourself in that regard. Having that consistent bedtime is important. So going to bed as much as possible with in a 30 to 45 minute, shift at your nighttime, and also being the consistent. They're finding that more studies are showing that consistent awake time in the morning is so important. Having a gentle alarm clock to awake you. That blaring, blasting alarm clock is over excessive, and it actually causes us exhaustion, causes your heart rate to increase, your blood pressure to rise. It's like all the calming and rejuvenation you did the night before is like out the window if you have one of those loud, blaring alarm clocks. Definitely be careful with that. You're getting good hydration right now. I'm recommending that we start drinking in glass waters. They're saying that we have enough microplastics in our body now to make a spoon. That's crazy to me. Our grandmothers didn't have that, our great grandmothers didn't have that, but that's the time we're living in. So definitely looking at, staying well hydrated, and the type of vessel you use to hydrate with really matters. You're also going to look at, your quality of your night garments. Ideally should be cotton so that your skin can breathe at night. Um, Additionally, your sheets should be cotton as well. If you live in a highly polluted area, definitely look at getting an air purifier for your room. If that's something that may definitely help. Music during this time. Sometimes we find music really comforting if we've been through traumas. We don't have to sleep in complete silence if we're not comfortable with that. So you having music on. So once again, you're in the right channel right here on YouTube. There's so many sleep meditations, sleep hypnosis tracks, some classical, some gentle jazz, a lot of tracks that will actually encourage and assist and help you to get a good night's sleep. So I think that's just about it. I'm gonna see if there are any questions that are going on. And so if someone had a question, that's an excellent question. And I'll have to gather some more data for you regarding that. I brought up the geomagnetic storms that have been going on this week. And they've done research and they show they can have a negative effect on our health. So sometimes it feels like the sun may be attacking us. It's very interesting. I follow, and I'll probably gather their data, some of the different geophysicists I follow here on YouTube who really have gone into more detailed explanation. And I'll gather some of their information. I know some of them really encourage us to be grounding right now, to stay well hydrated. A lot of them practice a lot of natural health things, making sure we're eating organic, fresh fruits. And most of these people, it's interesting, they're not pure vegans or vegetarians. You actually need small amounts of animal fat in your diet, actually for your brain. Your brain sits in a bed of fatty acids. You actually need cholesterol. I know people are, looking at lowering cholesterol, but we need a certain amount of cholesterol to function well mentally. So, definitely this is the time to not slack on our self-care. Definitely look look to improve your self-care, maximize it right now. We have great hacks if you want to catch our, and I'll probably put it in the description when we're done, the link to our A to Z sleep hacks where you can pick up hopefully some good tips that will begin working immediately to help you to get a great night's sleep. So that was a wonderful question. Yeah, and I might do a whole video on how those geomagnetic storms affect our health. So that would be really interesting to learn more about and see what's going on there. Okay. Is this a good time to be in therapy? Definitely. Yeah. I keep a therapist usually at all times depending on, we'll increase and maximize, depending on what's going on in the world. And sometimes when things are nice, we can lower, what's going on. But I think having that go-to person, and sometimes it's good not having a really close family or friend, someone that you can go to who's not going to have that judgment. They're going to be using their professional opinions, and you will be able to, we talked about this early in the video, you will be able to express yourself, get things off of your chest so that they don't sit, that these traumas don't sit inside of you and fester. We want to get these things off of our chest as soon as possible as we're working through them. So I definitely think this is a great time for that. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? No, I don't think it is. Definitely text us the word sleep at 470-824-5574 to get on our mailing list. We already have a great solution to help you to get some good night's sleep to add to your bedtime routine. You can get this already at sleepwellrx.com. Definitely give us a check out or a text. And I think that's it for tonight. So again, don't rush through these emotions. We have been through, an intense week, and we may have another intense week coming up. We're still in this eclipse season. We're still experiencing solar storms, geomagnetic issues. So be gentle and kind more than you usually are with yourself as we move through these times. So you were meant to be alive during these times. We are here and we can make it and we'll be okay. We definitely will. So thank you everybody for joining me tonight, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night.